And after working with him, I got it, and it was simple and it was easy.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the journey.
Oh, has it helped? Yes, it absolutely has. It's definitely helped in knowing the market a lot better and knowing how to how to put myself out there. Like, I would never ever have touched my LinkedIn ever. I didn't see LinkedIn as a valuable resource at all. So in saying that, it already has proven to be.
It's what I say. I think you guys are great and change people's lives, and it makes a lot of difference.
You deliver at a very high level.
It was really enjoyable. You learn a lot. It was really easy going step by step.
Questions before Wendy do. So that was, I think session 5, the interview session, if you ask me, was my favorite out of all the other 6 sessions.
So it's not only helped me in my personal branding, but it's helped me now on the business side, where I feel very, very capable to go into, you know.
Hey, super legends, superheroes, and megastars. Welcome to another episode of Hot Hire 6 and 7 figure coaches on fire. I am so excited. So for today's guest, we have Super Sally. She is absolutely sensational. I'm going to bring her out in a minute, but before I do, I just want to plug a couple of things. So my authority branding workshop will kick off in 1 week's time on Monday. Also, I've written 2 books about authority branding. One is for beginners and the other one is for coaches. So one I'm going to be releasing in the next week or 2, and the other one for coaches I'm going to be releasing next month. And let's have some fun today. So grab yourselves a cup of tea, grab yourself some bickies, and let's get super sensational Sally Lean out here. Hey, superstar, how are you?
Cheers. I've got my cup of tea ready.
You got the cuppa? Excellent, excellent. All right, so how are you today? How's your morning been?
Hey, Dre. Yeah, good, thanks. It's actually quite a warm winter's morning down here in regional New South Wales, so I'm pleased that it wasn't so frosty as it could have been.
All right, I love that. So guys, if anyone is watching the replay, type in #replay, and if you're watching live, you're more than welcome to say hello and ask Sally and I some questions. So Sally, please can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to join you, the amazing Dre. And it was fantastic working with you on your authority branding workshop a couple of weeks ago. I still have some things to implement, but I've got, some homework to do still. It's on my, high on my agenda to get that done and get my branding sorted out a little bit more clearly, and, get the word out there into the Zoomiverse and the internet world and all of that. So yeah, it's really exciting. Thanks. And I'm excited to learn more from you, actually, as we work more together in the future. So thank you for that opportunity. So tell you a little bit about myself. Well, goodness gracious. I refer to myself sometimes as a reformed teacher and educator. But I think it actually should be transformed teacher and educator. So I grew up in a small town in country Victoria here in Australia. And when I was in middle school, my parents moved to Melbourne for my father's work. And they ended up enrolling me into a really good, private girls' school in Melbourne for my middle school. And one of the reasons they chose the school above some others that were just, nearby, some other girls' schools, was that the school taught Chinese, and it was compulsory to learn Chinese. And that my dad I asked my dad not long ago, just a few years ago, like, why, what on earth possessed you way back then? If I say when exactly, I'll give away too much, so we won't talk about the actual dates, but way back then, years and years ago, 30, around 30 years ago, how did it possess you, to want me to study Chinese? And he's just said, I just thought it would be really useful for your future, maybe, given the size of the population in China, and that it might be a good skill to have. So yeah. And little did he know then, or nor did I know when I was still just a student in middle school, that it would end up being something that really captured my interest. And we moved again when I was going into high school, senior high school. So we came to a place called Wagga in New South Wales, and moved there. And the folks have been there ever since. So it's we joke around and say it's the town so nice they named it twice, but it's an Aboriginal from the Wiradjuri tribe, which is our region. So yeah, Wagga. And then I couldn't continue learning Chinese in high school, but I really missed it. And I sort of was tossing up between doing something like vet science, or because I love animals. And so I ended up with a part-time job as a veterinary nurse, which I've got to say beats being a checkout chick, or those kind of part-time jobs that you have when you're a teenager. But and I loved that work, but I really missed languages, and I figured if I followed on with languages, I could probably do a bit more traveling of the world and see some of the world and that sort of thing. So who knew? I ended up doing a whole degree in China. It's called a Bachelor of Chinese Studies with the Australian National University. And went to China for a year as part of my degree to study back in the early 90s, when it was just opening up. And it was just such an amazing experience to be there and be in areas where they'd never seen, sort of Westerners before. It was like being a movie star, in some of the places that we visited in rather intrepid travels that year, and people asking, things like, are your eyes real, or are you wearing contact lenses, or, is your hair color real, or is it dark?
Wow.
They just had never seen, and then, one of my friends went to a village of a friend that I was studying with, and went to visit the village, and, they had to get it all cleared by the local police and all this sort of thing, and went to stay with him, and her grandmother ran away, or sort of toddled away on her walking stick when she first saw me. And I thought, oh no, she's scared. And she came back with a packet of tea and said, this is for you because you look like the people in the television. So, it was like literally people were associating me with all these famous people on television. It was really sweet. And it's just such a privilege to have been there at such an early stage, when foreigners were still a kind of a new thing, and still very welcome and all that sort of thing. So, yeah. And I ended up, who knew that I would end up, I started my career as a teacher in a local high school in New South Wales, and I did a few years of that, and then I sort of needed a fresh start. I was like, all right, I need a fresh start, and I'd heard about this thing called international schools, so I thought, right, let's find out about that. So I applied, and I got a job in Guangzhou in China, actually. So I moved, all the way across the other side of the world, with my parents going, bye, good luck, honey. But very supportive. They've always been super supportive, and you can imagine them, worrying about me going off to the wilds of China, but, especially when I was still at university. But years later with a job in an international school, and then I sort of ended up building myself quite a career over the next sort of decade, and became quite the authority on Chinese language teaching and learning, especially as a second language learner myself. So I ended up being invited to do a lot of teacher training for international schools, and trying to, upskill Chinese teachers from the sort of Chinese style, very traditional style and approach to teaching and learning, into a more Western approach to pedagogy, and the understandings that underpin the Western approach to pedagogy. So it was sort of this whole thing, and I still hear people talking about, oh yeah, that foreigner who teaches Chinese. So it's an absolute privilege to have been there. I've got absolutely wonderful Chinese friends, and I managed it. sort of include a couple of other fun things as well as not just teaching. Ended up working with a worldwide training company for a while, and as the only sort of Westerner in the China office, and assisting in programs and setting up big programs and that sort of thing, and trainings for people. So that was really awesome, a really great experience. And from my work with that company, the personal breakthroughs that I had, as well as the working with the company, I really got that it's not about having perfect language. I had lived in this whole story of my Chinese isn't good enough for a really long time, and it was a real limit, like that real limiting belief that my Chinese isn't good enough. And it was fine in the classroom when I was teaching the kids, but not in. And by the way, I was teaching foreign kids, not Chinese kids, how to speak Chinese.
Oh, okay, yeah.
International school. It's all international kids from all around the world, whose parents are working there, that sort of thing. So teaching the international kids, and I still see my role if I'm ever working with learners of Chinese, is to develop that interest and understanding and give them the foundational skills, and and later on they'll work with native speakers to get to those really much higher levels. But I've not so long ago recently assessed through the American system of proficiency. So OPI, it's called Oral Proficiency Interview. That's the American government standard that they use for people who are applying for government jobs and things like that. So I was rated as advanced high, which is sort of very almost native speaking level, but it's also means that you're highly educated as well. You need to be, at least university level educated in order to become a really high level speaker, because you need to be able to think and speak and communicate at high levels as well. So so it's really cool. It's been such an amazing journey. The other really cool thing that I was privileged to do was to work with Channel 7 Australia during the Beijing Olympics. I was how cool is that? I know, it was just amazing. So I was assigned to work with a guy that some people might remember from TV, Tom Williams, and and a producer and a cameraman, and we and I was also sort of fixing stories, so setting up stories for for us to go and film and do sorts of things around China. So we're sort of doing a cultural element rather than focusing on the sports themselves. I did get to know a few of the sports, but so in an interview, a whole bunch of athletes obviously that were coming and going from the studio. So, but it was just incredible to see the amount of work and that massive level of professionalism, that Channel 7 brought to, bringing that all to live to TV here in Australia. It was just incredible. And what a privilege to be right there in amongst all of it, during the opening ceremony, I was on a live cross station outside the Bird's Nest in Beijing, with watching all the athletes file in and all the players for the opening ceremony and everything else. So it was really just incredible experience to be there and work with all these Australian TV personalities. Although I have to admit, I didn't know who Tom was when I was first assigned to the team, because I'd been living in China for 8 years and he wasn't famous in China. Yeah. But I'd been on Chinese television. So, it was a meeting of the lions, what can I say? Maybe not, but my viewership was bigger than his. So just so much fun though. I just had some incredible experiences, and I got to travel all around China in the outlying areas. I've been to base camp, in Tibet and on the, in the Tibetan side, it's just incredible, amazing experiences. I've got some amazing friends, international friends now all over the world, that I met in China. And then I worked 6 years in Singapore, and a year in Thailand before I came back, during COVID. So just like phenomenal experiences professionally and personally, as well, traveling the world, sort of during breaks and things like that, and having people to go visit, in different areas, which is even better in some ways than just doing a tour or something like that. Really knowing people who can show you around and tell you about local life wherever you happen to be, Germany, somewhere in the US, Canada, having friends to show me around. So it's just been
so cool.
incredible, yeah, amazing life experience. And you know, professionally wise, I was really privileged also to work for 6 years at the Singapore American School, which is one of the biggest and best international schools in the world. So I had a team of almost 70 language educators just for languages. The school has 4,000.
Did you say 70 as in 70?
70,
Just
yes,
for languages.
just for
That's
languages.
huge.
Huge program, right? And just after I was appointed as the director of world languages there, so there's over 3,500 kids learning Chinese, you know, out of 4,000. Learning languages, and you know, about over 2,700 kids learning Chinese, you know, in that school. So it's a huge program. And I was also, shortly after I was appointed, I was tasked with setting up a Chinese immersion program in the elementary school. So you know, it's a huge program. If you add up from kindergarten to grade 5, if you add up the school fees alone, it's a $25 million program. So, you know, it's just it's massive undertaking, you know, and having kind of a unique approach. We started with full immersion and then moved the scale over the elementary school years. And so the kids are going into grade 5 in August this year. So the ones who started, so they're just coming through to finish the program now. But they're just finishing, but they've moved to being bilingual. So it starts as a full immersion program and moved this sort of scale of the learning and the balance of, you know, language between English and Chinese into being bilingual. So just fascinating to see their development over the years and the success of the program. You know, and initially when we were just starting, you know, it was really, parents just were trusting me, you know, as a sort of a Westerner with that view into the Asian, you know, and Chinese learning world. So it was really such a privilege. I mean, we had some high level people in the school as well. So the guy who was then the general manager for Google in Asia, one of his kids in the program, and they end up moving back to the US. But yeah, you know, I had him sitting in my office interviewing, you know, to see if they were going to be joining the program or not. So just just amazing support. We had one family who moved. Both parents are of the school, alumni. So they heard that we were setting up this program. They moved their family, and you know, Dad started working remotely in his business so that the kids could come and be in that program. Like, that's the sort of demand that we were having for this.
Oh, cool,
incredible,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So and you know, of course, it takes a village to raise a baby. Well, it takes a village of, you know, really amazing educators to raise a whole program as well. So it wasn't just me, but you know, I think what I brought to it was that understanding of the challenges of learning Chinese as a second language, you know, which would have been a different focus if it had been a native speaker who set up that program. So yeah, you know, that was, and we really did a lot of research. I did 3 R&D trips to the US to visit schools there, and, you know, just incredible work that went into it. So that was just such a privilege to be working in a huge, you know, like on a big scale. And you know, the trouble is once you've had an amazing experience like that, it's hard to replicate. So I felt like I was sort of at the top of my game, right? Top of my game. What am I going to do next? And that's sort of that's part of the story of how I've gotten into coaching. Because during COVID, I was really worried about my dad, you know, being at home here, you know, in Oz by himself, you know, and during lockdowns and all that sort of thing. And then, you know, just getting older as you do. And I had promised my mum when she passed that I'd take good care of him. So I was like, oh, geez, I really need to think about, you know, not just this international career, but what else is there for me in life? And, you know, I felt like I'd reached the pinnacle of, you know, this sort of languages, you know, in teaching and learning in schools. Then what? So I decided that I would transition out of school education and, you know, come home. I gave myself 6 months off, and I got myself a coach. It was a friend of mine who'd gotten into coaching, got myself a coach, and I thought, really, you know, what support do I need for myself so that I'm not just sitting around enjoying 6 months off doing nothing, you know, and still being productive, working through releasing some limiting beliefs and, you know, sort of some baggage from past experiences, you know, doing all of that and then being ready to sort of get going at the start of this year. So, and it wasn't immediate to me, actually, that I wanted to be a coach, but I was sort of looking at different things. And my coach, the amazing Mel, Melinda Warnicki,
Love Mel.
yeah, really. She was asking me, are you thinking big enough? And I was like, at first I was like, you know what? I'm not really thinking big enough. I know it. I just sort of need to ease back in and figure my way, because I had to sort of learn how to Aussie again, how to, how do things work here in Australia. And I have to say, the teaching of languages in Australia, well, and I'm talking obviously mainly about New South Wales, but I'm also very familiar with the other states, is disappointing. It's really, we're lowballing it here in terms of languages education. So I was like, you know what, I don't have another 10 years to try to invest in making a difference. It's kind of like, what can I do that's still going to be really fulfilling for me, making a difference for people, using all of my, amazing different life experiences and experience in training and education. And it just sort of, I did NLP with the amazing Tony Kay, as you know, we both work
Love
with
Tony Kay. Yeah.
right? And then just incredible human being that he is. And I thought, this is actually, and I've been hearing about NLP for about 20 years, and I was like, I really want to learn about that one day. And then Melinda was saying, well, they're going to be running an NLP, because I was like, oh, sign me up. So I did, and was just phenomenal. So I really got a lot out of that. Next thing, of course, there's always some other opportunity. So I thought, right, amazing. I'm going to sign up for the master's program. Let me do that, because this was so fantastic. And, there was a sort of a community available as well. So I was like, yep, sign me up for all of that. And when I did the master's, I was suddenly like super sure. Like, yes, this is super sure, like, yep, like laser focus. This is not only what I want to be doing, with myself and my life, but this is also an amazing community to belong to. Amazing. So yeah, just phenomenal. And I think that's, if that's where I met you. So we just get to meet all these incredible people who are really, interested in making a difference for other human beings, and in just, however small or large that difference is, it's still making a positive difference to the world. Yeah.
I love that. Sally, do you know what I was thinking? I'm just so glad that you are part of the community and that you've come into, I'm going to say, my world as well. So like whenever we like catch up, you've just got like your energy, your vibe, and it's just joy and happiness. And I love hearing, I know I've heard it a couple of times, but about your experiences and just how you've helped people, and you've got to the top of your game, and it's like, oh, okay, what's that next thing as well?
Yeah.
So, all right.
It was, and the need was also to be home and be able to be living with my dad, not far away, in case he needs help. And, as it happens, so a couple of things have happened, and I've been able to be right here, and support him. And that's just such a gift as well for ourselves, for myself and dad, family wise. So yeah, it just, so it was a sort of two-pronged thing. It was a need for something new professionally, but also a family need that's being met. So it's just an amazing, gift, to be able to be involved in this. Yeah.
Gift. I love the way that you've put that. All right. So what do you do now? So who do you help now? And with the people that you help, what are some of those common, frustrations, challenges, like pain points that you come across?
Yeah, look, I know for myself, my own experience has been moving not just from job to job, but from country to country, looking for, trying to get away from sort of, I guess, toxic workplaces, or, looking for fulfillment, so it's kind of expensive when you move from country to country, not just job to job, looking for something, looking for the next thing. Oh, this isn't it. Now what am I going to do? I'll get another job, and I don't mean like every 5 minutes, but it's sort of how could I look for fulfillment. So I think there's a lot of people like that out there in the world who just aren't fulfilled, and they're also not, people who have a day job and then they think they're going to do their dreams on the weekend, or things like that, and then life happens, and kids, and you've got to pay a mortgage, and the pressures come, and your dreams fall by the wayside. And I've been really fortunate to have achieved pretty much every dream along the way that I've had so far in life, I'm in the process of creating some new ones, you know, like the next level, the next steps. But, you know, I've achieved a lot of the things that I set myself professionally along the way. And then, you know, so then what, you know, so there's a lot of people who just don't, who've given up on trying, right? So yeah, just looking for that fulfillment. Now it may come by just adjusting perspective from, you know, within what you're doing, but it also might require you know, a move to a different workplace or even a whole new career, you know. And that takes, I mean, I know from my own experience, it takes a lot of guts to say, all right, you know, this doesn't fit me anymore. Now what? You know, and especially when you get to a certain age and you've got all these things you've got to worry about in life, you know, paying the bills, paying the mortgage, you know, oh, what am I going to do? So, but it can be done, right? And that's, you know, why I've loved having a coach to sort of, you know, if I've had any like, angsty moments, you know, you know, she'll talk me through and go, all right, now what about this, this, and this? Oh, okay, yeah, cool, we're back on track, right? So, yeah, definitely, I think I'm interested in supporting professionals who are feeling unfulfilled, frustrated, you know, and really looking for what's next for themselves, but maybe not quite daring to do so. Maybe need to build a bit of confidence, you know, have a plan, backward design a plan for themselves. This is what I want, you know, let's stand out there and backward design the steps to get you there, you know, like all of that. Yeah. So just that's the sort of people that I've been working with, and, you know, really good feedback so far. I've got a friend who is in Europe. She's actually going to move countries now. She's like, okay, I need to do this. I'm ready to branch out again. So yeah, yeah, just really cool stuff. Another friend who's completely changed her career, you know, after working through the coaching. So yes, it's been brilliant so far. You know, I'm excited. I'm enjoying the ride as well as the outcomes for the clients that I've worked with.
I love that. All right. So say if anyone's watching and they're thinking, oh, I love Sally, I'd love to work with her. What's the best way for people to get hold of you?
Yeah, so they can email me, sally@leanintosucceed.com, or look out for me on Facebook and LinkedIn, just so you know, to search up my name, Sally Lean. So yeah, awesome. Thanks for asking.
All right, Sally, a final question. So you know that I love dad jokes. I'm absolutely obsessed. So do you have a dad joke, something like empowering, something inspirational, something motivational, something that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yes, for sure. There's that great quote. Now, I think it's a bit misquoted, but, you know, I've got it on the wall over here, so I'm just going to look over here. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I love that. You know, no sitting around being passive. Somebody once said to me, you got to quit hoping for a miracle. Quit sitting around in life hoping for a miracle and go out there and make your own miracles. So, you know, that's something that I really live by. And I think that's just an awesome, you know, approach to life. So, yeah, just quit holding a candle and just hoping for a miracle and actually go out there and make it happen for yourself. And I know you love dad jokes, so of course I've got one for you, Dre.
You've just made my day. Oh.
The good old, a man walked into a bar and got disqualified from the limbo contest.
Do you know what? I've never heard that one. I've never heard that. Yeah, so thank you. Sally, I just want to say a massive, huge thank you to you. You're an absolute superstar. Oh, sorry, I've got the so the music's up really loud and I couldn't hear myself. So I just want to say a massive, huge, gigantic thank you to you for coming on. And
You're
I
so
just
welcome.
absolutely love the person that you are and like the value that you bring. And I'm just so excited for, you know, for what's to come. So, and also I'm sending you lots of love and wishes to your dad, because I know that he's unwell.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it, Dre. What an awesome opportunity. And I'll see you in Clubhouse as well when we get that our panel all set up.